Hey everyone, today I wanted to do a review on the sling that I've been using for quite a few months now on this AK. I picked this up a few months ago from Gray Shop. This is a Wartech TS-110. That's a 2-point sling. There's a few cool things about it, namely it doesn't have to be a 2-point sling. It can be converted into a single point, and there's a few other things that I'll mention in this video, as well as my own thoughts on it after a good amount of time. Not an entire year has passed since I got it, but I've got enough usage out of it to where I feel like I can give a pretty good opinion of it. So let's get started. I do have this on here already because I have been using it for quite a while, but I will take this off first of all and I'll just show an installation. It's a pretty straightforward sling installation, but may as well. There are a few parts that might be a little bit confusing otherwise, so I'll get this off and we'll get over to that. Okay, so getting started, let's first make sure the gun's actually clear. And it's all good. I'll get the mag out. You know, for safety I actually should have done that first, but I already knew it was clear, so all is well here. But anyway, moving on. So, starting at the back of the sling, this is what's going to be attaching over here. So as I said, I got this sling several months ago, but I do believe that it actually does not come exactly like this, so I won't show this part. It's really straightforward. All you have to do is just like regular fabric, you just loop it through here, out there, loop it through here, and out there. And you can kind of position these wherever you want. I just put them this way so I could kind of get, so that I could get the strap held down as much as possible. But yeah, you could have these right next to each other or whatever. Doesn't really matter. At any rate, getting started here, I'm going to go to the back side of the stock here, and I'm going to loop this around here. And that's going to, so this buckle here is going to actually sit on the back. I'll show that later, but for now, let's work on this side as I've got it here, and we'll slide this through the actual sling hook. Now it doesn't really have to slide through the sling hook here. It's much better. It's just a little bit more stable, but you don't need it. If you have a solid stock AK that doesn't fold, you know, non-folding, obviously your sling hook won't be here. It'll normally be way further back on the gun. They kind of place them everywhere. I've seen them down here, I've seen them on the other side, etc. So I don't know how well this sling would work out if you did have a non-folding stock. I honestly think it wouldn't work out too well. But on that note, this will fit onto ARs. I'm not going to show it here, but it will fit pretty well. If you can imagine just, you know, the same type of sling hook that you have on an AR, it would just slide it through there and then continue the process, which I will do now. So, now that we're here, this buckle, you know, I said I could flip the gun. It's pretty much fine as it is for this step, so we're going to take this side right here and just slide it through this. And then, at this point, I will flip to the other side. So how this is going to be positioned once I actually have the sling on is just like this. So this strap will just go straight along the rifle that way. Not that it matters too much, because we can just wiggle this around a little bit before it's fully tightened down, and even then you can just loosen it up again. So then we're going to put this part through here. I'm just putting it all the way through. And then I'm going to push this actually a little bit over here for just so you can see it better. So next, then I'll just slide it through here. And I mentioned this earlier, but like this is the exact same process you will be using to get these parts of the sling through. So exact same process here. You would just do the same thing here and here. And admittedly, you do these first. But anyway, putting it through here now. There we go. Now I'm just going to kind of hold down here and just push on it. Pushing on this part. That way I'm tightening it down and just holding this. That way it doesn't rotate around. And just getting this as tight as I possibly can onto the stock itself. That way it doesn't wiggle around or rotate. Can be a bit annoying when this keeps rotating around. So now, with all this excess, I'm going to go back to the other side here. I'm going to actually be doing quite a bit of flipping the gun here in just a sec, but now going through the actual sling hook on the stock again, going back to the other side, and then I'm going to slide it through this first sort of buckle, or I guess holder, whatever you want to call it, and then based on how tight you have it, and also depending on the stock you have, that may be it. Your strap may just go out to here and that's it. But for me, I need to go a little bit more so I can actually tuck it again into this buckle here, which I will do. So I finished that part up off camera. It's always easier to do stuff when you're not working around a tripod. But next, that is it for this rear. Now I'm going to go to the front. So this right here, we got a really nice, I love these HK style sort of sling attachments. So this just goes right here into the regular just front sling attachment point on the handguard retainer. I've seen a few handguards that block this. For example, I know the old Magpul Zukov handguards at least used to block this, which was pretty annoying. I don't know if they ever fixed that. I don't want to get too sidetracked. I'm not a big fan of Magpul's AK products. But anyway, so let me just make sure I've got this straight. It actually is a bit tangled here off camera, so I'm just going to straighten this out here. So yeah, making sure that this is untangled. It's not going to be very comfortable as a sling if it is tangled even once. And then, so yeah, no tangles there. So just hooking it in here. So this part opens and then it just goes right onto here. Just like that. And that's it. Pretty straightforward process. It admittedly took me a little longer than I thought it would just because it was on camera, so I was a little bit awkward on it, but that is it. We are done. Okay, so now that I've got the sling re-hooked onto here, let's start with what I mentioned at the introduction. So I wanted to show, as it is currently, this is the 2-point configuration, and I personally really prefer 2-point slings. I honestly quite dislike single-point slings. They kind of shake around too much, so I'm not a fan. But it is cool that this can be converted to single-point, so I will show it. So it's actually really straightforward, so I'll have to show it a bit slowly to just get everything in the shot. So taking the front swivel, just unhooking it here, and instead of going up there, we will put it into this ring. Let's see if you can see that very well. So this ring right here, and it just hooks right onto it. And just like that, we have it converted to a single point sling. The next thing I wanted to talk about on this sling is the quick detach system they have. Now you don't need it in the single point configuration to use the quick detach. It's just, I do because I just did that, so I'm not going to switch it back to 2-point. But what you do here, so there's this piece of fabric here that you can pull on to tighten up or to loosen the fit of the sling nice and quickly. And right next to that is this buckle. So if I just undo this strap, and then I can push this buckle just straight, nice and simple buckle here. And just like that, it is nice and quickly detached. I can think of a few reasons why you would want to do a quick detach on a sling, or why you'd want to convert a single to 2-point and vice versa, but for me at least, those are both features I haven't used, but it is cool nonetheless that they have them, especially the single point conversion. I think that might come in handy for a lot of people. Now when I just mentioned that quick detach buckle, I did mention about a strap that you can use to adjust how long this is, and I didn't really talk about that yet, but it is right here. So let me put this on. So when you have this on, maybe you'd want it loose when you're actually putting it on. I normally do. That way it's easy to sling over yourself, but then once you get it on, you can un-velcro this strap here, and you can either pull it to tighten it, or you can actually loosen it by pulling on this. So I have a little rope sort of thing right here, and the actual strap itself. So yeah, you pull on the strap to tighten it, or you can pull on the rope to loosen it back up. Quite nice. Similar to the Blue Force Gear Vickers sling, which I also own. And yeah, I quite like it. I really like the ability to quickly adjust your sling. It's quite nice. One big thing I wanted to mention, which was actually supposed to be my main point, I don't know how I forgot it. It's even on my outline, but anyway, the fact that this sling has some padding. I only used one other padded sling before this, and even then I didn't use it that much, so actually using a padded sling a lot, it's great. I love it a lot. But that is just personal preference at the end of the day. You may not like padded slings, but for me, after using this, I'm probably never going to go back to just regular slings. I'll probably just always stick with padded slings from now on. Not to say that this one is, there's a lot of padded slings out there. This isn't the only one. You can find them everywhere. But Yeah, this is padded. It's not too padded. The other sling I did mention that was padded was honestly a little bit too much padding, in my opinion. It was probably about this thick with padding, which was a little bit crazy. It worked, but you know, felt a little weird that way. This is, let's see if I can show you here. So it's pretty thin. So that's about how thick the padding is, and if you can compare that to the regular thickness that the sling is right here, it's decent. It's not, in my opinion, overdone with padding, but just that little bit of padding, and it's really comfortable. So there's a lot of things I like about this sling. However, there are a few things I also don't like that are kind of annoying. How severe they are kind of up to you, but at least for me, the first big thing is you can't really fold the stock very easily. In my case, I have just loosened this because what that allows me to do is I can just slide these buckles right here out of the way, and then that allows me to push down and then fold the stock. Normally, however, where it sits here, this whole strap, it can't close with these buckles in the way, which is a little bit annoying. That's just something with how they designed it. Granted, that also, even though that's something I don't like, that also has its pros, because normally on an AK sling, because this is left side folding, they have to put the sling hook here on the right side. So if you have a normal sling, this will be a little bit hard to show. Hopefully you can visualize it, but if I put up the rifle like this, depending on how tight I have the sling, the fabric can come up, and when I'm shooting, it can kind of be like pushing against my face, because then of course it has to go back around my body and then up to the actual front sling hook of the rifle. So since they loop it around and it kind of comes out from the left side, it makes it so that isn't an issue, but it comes with its own issues as well. This kind of fixes a problem and introduces a new problem in its stead. Now next, this isn't really so much a con, but it's something I'm a bit concerned about. It hasn't been an issue so far though, and that's that this is some really, really thin, I wouldn't say really, really thin, but this is some pretty thin material that they use here on the sling. I mentioned earlier the Blue Force gear sling, which I have on my AR. That is much thicker, probably 3 or 4 times the thickness of this at the least. Honestly, probably even more than that. But so far, despite that, I haven't had any issues with fraying or any just wear issues whatsoever. There's been no tearing. It's held up really well. However, it is something I am concerned about in the future, but it has held up so far, and I've had this for, as I said, quite a few months. Honestly, it's almost a year at this point, so it stands as a decent testament to its strength, I think. So in conclusion, I would say this sling is kind of a mixed bag. I feel like that's the case with pretty much all gear. You'll always have some drawbacks and some really good advantages. Ultimately, this just has a big trade-off of, since it loops around, and actually quite a few Russian slings do, but at any rate, this does inhibit the ability to fold the stock, but it just depends on where your priorities are. If you value folding the stock more, or if you value kind of just a little bit extra comfort of having the loop or the sling come out on this side rather than the other, because as I mentioned, then that can hit into your face. It's just whatever you value more. Personally, it is kind of an annoyance for me to not be able to fold the stock, but the only times I do are just in storage and when I'm transporting the rifle to and from the range and stuff like that. So it's not the biggest thing to me, but it's definitely a big point to keep in mind. That's the biggest drawback, as I've said earlier. But overall, I would recommend the sling. Currently, it's really not that bad of a price either. When I checked earlier today before doing this video, it was only $23 on Gray Shop, which is where I bought this from. So not bad at all. I don't know if you can get this anywhere else. You probably can. There's probably other resellers that sell it, but at any rate, that's where I got it. And yeah, pretty good sling. Thank you all for watching, and hopefully you found this informative, and I will see you all in the next one. Take care.